In a cluttered Los Altos garage in 1976, three men ignited a revolution. Steve Jobs, the relentless visionary, Steve Wozniak, the engineering savant, and Ronald Wayne, the cautious skeptic. Their first creation, the Apple I, was little more than a bare circuit board. But Wozniak's Apple II, released in 1977, changed everything. With its sleek design, color graphics, and user-friendly interface, it wasn't just a computer. It was a declaration that technology belonged in homes, schools, and the hands of everyday people. By 1984, Apple's ambition exploded onto the world stage with the Macintosh. Its iconic Super Bowl ad, directed by Ridley Scott, depicted a hammer shattering a dystopian screen, a direct attack on IBM's dominance. The Macintosh introduced the graphical user interface and mouse, tools so intuitive they redefined how humans interacted with machines. But behind the revolution lay fractures. Ronald Wayne, fearing debt, sold his 10% stake for just $800, a decision that would cost him billions. Jobs' relentless drive bordered on tyranny. He pushed Wozniak to abandon passion projects, manipulated early employees into grueling hours, and fostered a culture of fear masked as perfectionism. The seeds of greatness were sown, but so were the roots of ruthlessness. In 1985, Apple's board made a fateful decision. They fired Steve Jobs. The Macintosh office had flopped, and Jobs' abrasive style alienated executives. John Scully, the Pepsi CEO Jobs once wooed with the line, "Do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life?" took the helm. What followed was a decade of decline. Scully prioritized profits over innovation. The Newton PDA, released in 1993, became a laughingstock for its clumsy handwriting recognition. Apple's market share plummeted to 3%, and layoffs gutted morale. A revolving door of CEOs, Michael Spindler, Gil Amelio, left the company adrift. By 1997, Apple was weeks from bankruptcy. Yet in the shadows, Jobs was evolving. Exiled, he founded Next, a computer company whose operating system would later become Apple's lifeline, and bought Pixar, where he honed his knack for storytelling. When Apple acquired Next in 1997, Jobs returned, not as a prodigal son, but as a hardened strategist ready to burn the playbook. Jobs' second act began with a brutal overhaul. He slashed product lines, partnered with Microsoft, a once unthinkable move, and unveiled the iMac G3, a candy-colored translucent machine that made computers objects of desire. The iMac saved Apple, but it was only the beginning. In 2001, the iPod arrived, promising 1,000 songs in your pocket. It obliterated the Walkman and turned Apple into a cultural force. The iTunes Store, launched in 2003, rescued the music industry from piracy while cementing Apple's control over digital content. Then came the iPhone in 2007. Jobs called it a leapfrog product, and he was right. It wasn't just a phone. It was a pocket-sized computer, camera, and gateway to the internet. The App Store, launched in 2008, spawned empires. Uber, Instagram, TikTok. Developers became millionaires. Apple became a trillion-dollar titan. But the iDecade's glow hid darkness. In 2010, reports exposed Foxconn factories in China. Workers toiled in brutal conditions, faced humiliation, and some died by suicide. Apple pledged reform, but critics called it progress, not perfection. Jobs' obsession with secrecy bred paranoia. Employees worked in isolated teams, unaware of projects beyond their desks. His temper was legendary. He once threw a prototype iPod into an aquarium to test for air bubbles, screaming, "If there's bubbles, there's space to make it smaller." By 2011, pancreatic cancer claimed Jobs, leaving Tim Cook, his stoic lieutenant, to inherit an empire at its peak and a legacy of contradictions. Tim Cook's Apple is a study in scale. Under his leadership, revenue soared from $108 billion in 2011 to $108 billion in 2011 to $394 billion in 2022. The Apple Watch redefined wearables. AirPods became a cultural phenomenon. Services like Apple Music and iCloud minted billions. In 2023, Apple became the first $3 trillion company. But with power came backlash. The App Store's 30% fee on digital purchases sparked fury. Epic Games sued, accusing Apple of monopoly practices. Regulators in Europe and the US launched antitrust probes. Environmental pledges, like a 2030 carbon-neutral goal, clashed with reality. Millions of discarded iPhones, many laced with toxic materials, piled up in Ghana and India's e-waste slums. Apple's tax strategies, funneling profits through Irish subsidiaries, shielded over $250 billion from taxation, drawing global scorn. Yet Apple's cultural grip tightened. Its stores, with their minimalist design and genius bars, became modern-day town squares. The iPhone symbolized status, creativity, and connection. When the FBI demanded Apple unlock a terrorist's iPhone in 2016, Cook framed privacy as a human right, a stance that won praise but also scrutiny. Was Apple a guardian of freedom or a gatekeeper? Apple's story is a paradox. It democratized technology, empowering activists during the Arab Spring and Black Lives Matter protests. Musicians, filmmakers, and entrepreneurs built careers on Apple's tools. Yet its hunger for growth exploited factory workers, stifled competitors, and strained the planet. Jobs once said, "It's better to be a pirate than join the Navy." Apple sailed uncharted waters, but piracy leaves wreckage. The question now is whether the empire can evolve. Can it lead the AI and augmented reality revolution without repeating the sins of the iPhone era? Can it balance profit with purpose? As Tim Cook steps down in the coming years, Apple faces a crossroads. Will it cling to the walled garden or open its gates? Will it innovate for humanity or for shareholders? The answers will shape not just Apple's future, but the future of technology itself. If you find this video interesting and inspiring, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more business stories. See you next time.